Hi, guys, and welcome to Deep Waves Transformation, where we dive deep into the realms of mental health, trauma recovery, narcissistic abuse recovery, toxic love relationships, and more. I am your host, Tasha Day, and I am here to guide you through this journey of awareness and healing. On today's episode, you guys, we have Craig Meriwether from Arizona. He is a mindset coach and clinical hypnotherapist, helping people eliminate negative emotions and trauma so they can reach their full potential. For over 12 years, Craig has been helping people heal from early childhood trauma, helping cancer patients with pain control, veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, students with test anxiety, children with nightmares, entrepreneurs with confidence, athletes with peak performance, and anyone who may be dealing with overwhelm, fear, and anxiety. Craig, it's a pleasure having you on today. How are you?
I'm doing well, Tasha. Thank you for inviting me. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while now. So I'm
Me too.
glad it's finally here.
I'm super excited to have you on. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. Well, I'm, as you mentioned in the introduction, I'm a hypnotherapist. And what I do is I just help people deal with the, emotional upset, the maybe negativity they may be finding in their lives, whether they're struggling with anger or overwhelm or worry, or maybe a traumatic event that happened to them in the past, as well as helping people reach their goals. What we do is work with the subconscious part of mind. And this is what's going to make for a great conversation today because it's so vast and so wide. The reason for that introduction is just to let people know this works with pretty much everything, because what we're doing is working with the instructions that have been installed within your subconscious mind, whether that happened through trauma or maybe a terrifying event or fear, or just, what you mirror in the home in terms of how you view the world. It's all kind of computer programming in a sense. And what's interesting about it, even if that anxiety, that trauma, that fear, that was installed through a traumatic event, even during childhood, and I don't mean to say this as if I'm blaming the victim or saying that it was their fault. It certainly is not. It wasn't your fault. And I'm not saying it was fair and it should have happened. It shouldn't have. But those instructions on how to keep yourself safe and how to protect yourself in the world were installed by you. Yes, through that event, probably unconsciously, maybe as a child, certainly through duress. But you're the one who installed them, and it actually becomes very empowering, because if you're the one who installed them, then you're the one who can change them. And you don't have to look outside of yourself for help. And this is why I like this modality of therapeutic hypnosis, is because, yes, there's certain healing modalities. Yeah, I break my leg. I want you to take me to the doctor. If I'm in a car accident, take me to the doctor. If I need my appendix out, take me to the surgeon. I think everybody should be getting a massage once a week. And the massage therapist is doing their magic, right? They're the ones helping you relax your muscles. But this is more of you're going to fix yourself. So I don't fix anybody, and hypnotherapy in and of itself doesn't fix anybody. You're going to fix you, because who better to know what the problem is than you? And more importantly, who better to know what the answer is, what to do about it? And so, and a lot of people may be scratching their heads saying, okay, but I don't know what the problem is. And that's why I think a lot of people kind of spin their wheels in talk therapy, because they're not reaching the core issue or the root issue, because it's behind that veil. It's behind the curtain within that unconscious part of mind. But that's the difference between what we do in therapeutic hypnosis and talk therapy, which is very important. I think everybody should be doing talk therapy as well. I think that's a very healing therapy. Always have a second pair of eyes on when you're doing anything, whether that's athletics or music. Always have a coach, relationships, business. But in terms of dealing with the hurt and the pain and the wounds, you may not remember or know what they were because they happened at such a young age. And with therapeutic hypnosis, you can bypass that conscious level of mind and work directly with the subconscious. And again, the difference between talk therapy and hypnotherapy is you're using that conscious level of mind to try to solve the problems and tell somebody else who hopefully will tell you what your problem is and then tell you how to fix it. And, that's why it takes months and months, if not years. I've met a lot of people who come to see me and say, I've been in talk therapy for 2-3 years and I've changed a couple things, but I still hurt. I'm still in pain because I
Right.
haven't reached that core level of whatever the situation was, the trauma. And whether that happened last month or last year or 10 years ago or 40 years ago or 60 years ago, you know what it is because your mind and body is trying to protect you from it. It's trying to keep you safe. It just may be using the instructions set up by a child. And that may have been the best thing that child could have done to keep themselves safe. Hide, keep yourself small, don't raise your voice, keep your voice low, keep yourself hidden. That may have been the best thing to do as a child to keep yourself safe. But that's not going to work when you're an adult. That's not going to work in your 30s or 40s or 60s or 70s. So it's not until you change those instructions that things are going to change. And so that's what, and we can go more in depth in how it all kind of works, but you're allowed to change those instructions. You're allowed to heal from those past events. You have the power, you have the right, you have the ability to do so. And it's really by just accessing those files in that filing cabinet within the subconscious mind that you can change the computer code and change your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. We got to get to what I call the executive state. Like there's 3 states, and we got to get
Yep.
to the executive state where we completely just delete everything that we've been told. We're not good enough. You're never going to amount to anything.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so how do we dive into the subconscious to actually rewire and reprogram all of that?
Yeah, and just kind of depending on what you're working on, but a lot of times it's just as easy to ask. And so just by moving into a relaxed state of mind and body, if anybody's ever done like meditation, and hypnotherapy is not meditation, but it feels like that relaxed state that you get into in meditation. Or if anybody's ever done yoga, oftentimes and mostly everybody's favorite part of a yoga class is savasana at the very end when you're just relaxing. And I'll tell you this,
Right.
if your yoga instructor, if she's it's like, okay, everybody just lie back on your backs and arms to the side and just take a deep breath in and relax and pretend that a shining golden light of healing energy is flowing around you and up through your feet into your legs. It's revitalizing, she's doing hypnotherapy. So she's
Yeah, that's
put you
very
into a
true.
relaxed state of mind and body, and using your imagination is changing the communication within the cells of your body, because the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined, and will literally change your physiology. And we know this, a really good example of this is a nightmare, having a nightmare in the middle of the night. And it doesn't matter how crazy, how silly, how ridiculous that nightmare may be. A gigantic cheeseburger and his 2 hot dog friends are chasing down the street throwing coconuts at you. It's stupid. Or it could be something super realistic, like a war veteran having PTSD dreams. But either case, it's not happening. You're lying in bed, cozy and comfortable and safe. But here's this gigantic cheeseburger chasing down the street. It's frightening. And your subconscious mind's main job, amongst all the other stuff it does, running your immune system and beating your heart and growing your hair and all this stuff, its main job is to keep you safe and protected. And it has a safety protocol, though, of shoot first, ask questions later. So it sees a threat, or it senses a threat of this gigantic cheeseburger chasing down the street, throwing coconuts at you. And so it'll turn on the stress response. And that's heavy work. That's not easy to do, to just turn on the stress response. You have to start turning on the adrenaline and cortisol. And you've probably heard, Tasha, and probably your listeners heard those crazy stories of grandmothers lifting cars off of babies. That's adrenaline
Yeah.
doing that. And that's no coursing through your bloodstream. 300% more blood is now moving to the big muscles of your arms to fight. 300% more blood moving to big muscles of your legs to escape That's got to come from somewhere. So it's turning down the power in your immune system. That's why people get sick when they're stressed. It's turning down the power in your digestive system. That's why people get irritable bowel syndrome when they're stressed and in chronic anxiety. And so this is massive effort to do this, all because your brain or your mind thinks that you're in danger. So it changes the chemistry of your brain, which changes the physiology of your body, changes your feeling state. That's a lot of work. And that's in deep sleep. So imagine what you're doing in your waking world and all the perceptions you have about your world and your life. And so in terms of this work of hypnotherapy, even just the example of the yoga class, you can change your physiology just through imagination, no matter how ridiculous or silly it may seem. If you told somebody, yeah, we moved this beautiful golden white light up through our bodies, I just feel so much better. They're going to roll their eyes and all that. But it works. This is the way it works. And so we use that to our advantage. And so really what this is we're just tapping into the placebo effect, using imagination and playing pretend. And in fact, Dr. Irving Kirsch calls hypnotherapy a non-deceptive placebo. And of course, we know the placebo when a pharmaceutical company is doing research on a high blood pressure medication. Half the group's going to get that sugar pill because they know mind will heal the body. They literally have to account for that in their research. So they're going to trick a bunch of people into healing themselves by telling them this little, blue pill will lower their blood pressure, and they do it. And so let's say 30% in the placebo group get better. They lower their blood pressure through mind, through healing themselves. The people getting the real medication, let's say 40% get better with the real medication. They now have to subtract 30% because maybe those people also got better through mind. They healed themselves. It had nothing to do with the medication. So really only 10% got better on the medication, and that's good enough. We'll put it on the market at, $80 a pill. But nobody really looks at, but more people got better healing themselves through mind. Because it's easy, kind of easier, I get it, to take the pill. Right. But you can heal. And that's what hypnotherapy helps you do. And by moving into a relaxed state, again, it kind of feels, if anybody's ever done any meditation or done that yoga class and savasana, or maybe if you've ever been bored in a meeting at work, or if you remember high school math class, it's just that daydreamy state, basically going down to the alpha brainwave state. Right. That kind of between alpha and theta, firing somewhere. So beta, if people know the brainwave states we learned about in school, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. Yeah. Just the basic ones we'll talk about here. Beta's consciousness is what, you and I are in, Tasha, right now, are firing about 18 cycles per second, just basically literally how fast neurons are communicating with each other. And let's say I'm bored in high school math class, and I just start staring out the window and waiting for the weekend to come because, I'm going to hang out with my friends. And I just start staring out the window and I move inward and I stop being in the present moment. I stop being in the now. I'm not hearing what the teacher's saying. He's still talking. Kids are still asking questions and acting up and all that. But I moved inward. I start thinking about the future, or maybe I'm remembering something that happened in the past. And I start getting really tired and I start closing my eyes and I'm starting getting sleepy. So I've moved down to the alpha brainwave state, maybe firing about 12 cycles per second. I'm moving into sleep. I'm not really asleep, but I'm not really awake either. I'm moving down to theta brainwave state, firing about 6 cycles per second. Soon I'll be in delta, maybe firing at 1 or half cycle per second. And I'm doing this, laying down, falling asleep. And the teacher sees me, hey, Craig, why don't you come up here and do the problem on the board? And I jolt awake and I'm looking around. Everybody's staring at me. I'm getting embarrassed. I'm looking at the board. I don't know how to do that problem. I wasn't paying attention. And so now I'm really stressed. Now I'm firing about 30 cycles per second because I'm in the stress response. I'm in high beta. And so just in that short period of time, maybe 5-6 minutes, I've altered my state of consciousness 3 or 4 times just in the span of sitting there in high school math class. Right. And so this is something we do all day long, whether you're just driving And let's say you're driving home, you start thinking about the weekend, you got people coming over, you got to get the house together, you got to get shopping done. And all of a sudden you find yourself in your driveway, your parking spot, or your garage. You don't remember the last 5 blocks. You've just put yourself in an altered state of consciousness safely because you know how to drive home and you've done it. If you've lived there several years and 365 days a year, you've probably driven home thousands of times. So you know how to do it, like you know how to tie your shoes and ride a bicycle. But you put yourself in an altered state of consciousness driving home. You put yourself in an altered state of consciousness bored in that meeting and you start thinking about something else. And so you put yourself in an altered state of consciousness watching TV. Watching TV puts you in the alpha brainwave state. So with hypnosis, we're not doing anything that you're not doing already. We're just doing it on purpose. We know you can heal yourself. Researchers know that. Everybody in the scientific and medical field knows this.
Yeah.
So the placebo effect, we know you can heal yourself. We know you can put yourself in an altered state of consciousness because you're doing it multiple times a day. All we're doing is we're doing it on purpose and for the intention of healing. And that's probably the most important aspect of hypnotherapy, because I know there's a lot of misconceptions. Maybe we can move into that conversation. The misconceptions, because a lot of people think, okay, well, it's control and they don't want to do it. Somebody's going to control me and make me do funny things and weird things or tell my deepest, darkest secrets. And that's not how this works. That's the movies. That's TV.
Yeah.
That's how they move the plot point forward in the movies to get Jason Bourne to assassinate the prime minister. That's not how this works. It's all about your intention. And so a great example, what hypnotherapy is really famous for is to help people quit smoking. And so I can't make anybody quit smoking who doesn't want to quit. Even if you come to me and say, I want to quit smoking, I've run into people who they just want to negotiate with their spouse because their spouse wants them to quit, but they want to smoke in the garage. They say, well, I tried everything. I even went to hypnotherapy. It doesn't work. So I'll just smoke in the garage. They don't want to quit, so they're not going to quit. I mean, if I could make people do stuff, I could go into bars and to Las Vegas casinos and just make everybody quit smoking. And we'd be a much healthier planet. I could go to prisons and hypnotize everybody to be law-abiding, upstanding citizens. I could go to the leaders of the world and create world peace. Hypnotize all the world leaders to create world peace and no more war. I'd be able to go to Elon Musk and hypnotize him to write me $1 billion check.
Yeah.
But the reason I don't have $1 billion check from Elon Musk is because he doesn't want to write me one.
Yeah.
And so I can't make people do anything they don't want to do. And so I know a lot of people know about this work from the shows in comedy clubs or Las Vegas, the hypnotist shows. And there's people up on stage singing like Elvis Presley and dancing like Michael Jackson and pretending they're on a roller coaster and barking like dogs and quacking like ducks and all that stuff. But understand that everybody that gets up on that stage volunteered to get up there, assuming they're not plants, assuming that they're not the local improv troupe or something, assuming that they're actual people in the audience. They volunteered to go up there. They bought a ticket to the show. They wanted to go to the show. They bought a ticket, sat in their seat. When the hypnotist comes out, hey, everybody, we're here to have a good time. Who wants to come up on stage and have a really fun night? A bunch of people jump up and down and raise their hands because they want to go up there. They want to do that. That's fun to them. It's not to me, maybe not to you, Tasha, maybe not to most of the people listening. But the people who are extroverts and exhibitionists and just want to have a silly, fun night and a funny video to put up on Instagram or TikTok or something, they want to go up there and have a good time. And they do. Look at them at the end of the show. They got a big smile on their face. They had a great time. Their intention was to have fun, and they did. And that's not how I want to have fun or spend my evening, but to some other people, that was hilarious, and that was a good time, and they want to make their friends laugh. And so they have a good time. Their intention is to entertain, and so they do. So what then if it's your intention to heal? What are the possibilities that you can use your ability to heal yourself, if your intention is to actually tap into that on purpose? It's not going to trick you into doing it. Non-deceptive placebo. Do this healing work on purpose with your subconscious mind. And that's why, again, going back to that kind of introduction that you made, this just kind of works with everything and everybody. because it's, again, not the hypnotherapy that's fixing you. I'm certainly not fixing anybody. You're fixing yourself. And that's why,
Yep.
again, it doesn't matter whether you're 9 years old or, 79 years old or somewhere in between, and whether you're working on your goals for your business or getting the confidence to get up to do the keynote speech, or you're an athlete who is trying to get to the Olympics and needs just that extra push to become the champion, or you're dealing with trauma that happened 60 years ago.
Right.
You're allowed to heal because that's your intention. That's what you want to do. Unfortunately, hypnotherapy is oftentimes at the bottom of the list. We're kind of the witch doctors, everything. And it's really, people come to hypnotherapy as the last resort because they've run out of options. They've run out of hope.
Right.
So I was like, well, I guess I'll try hypnotherapy. And it's really unfortunate because of your power to heal, this doesn't take a long time. We're generally, I see people 3 or 4 times. And that's not just like, oh, I need confidence to do the meeting next week. This is like deep, serious hurt and pain.
Wow.
And so the reason why this doesn't take, potentially years and years like you might see with talk therapy is that you know what the problem is. And more importantly, you know what the answer is. You fix yourself. It's just, for some reason, you have to give yourself permission to do so. And we run into blocks. I mean, you could do this work on your own. I mean, there's probably tons of videos and recordings and things you can find. But sometimes you hit that wall because it's scary and because it was a big traumatic event in your life that caused a lot of hurt and pain and a lot of wounding. You put up those walls, and those are sometimes difficult to get around. That's where a hypnotherapist comes in. They can help facilitate, they can lifeguard, and they help resolve those issues of blocks and walls in a safe and gentle way. This isn't throwing people into the deep into the pool filled with, sharks and piranha. We're going to do this in a safe and gentle way, and you're allowed to do that. And so again, this doesn't take a long time. It's just as.
So do you think we need to start with the mindset first? Do you think that a lot of people are stuck in the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset? And how do we get them to have that growth mindset? Because I feel like a lot of people are stuck in the fixed. That's why we're like, I don't know what to do. How do I heal?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to heal. So what's the point,
Yeah. And that's a extraordinary question. It's just that thing. You got to hit that rock bottom. You finally got to get to the point where I've tried everything. Nothing's changing. I read this article. My friend did it. I saw, a documentary on TV or something that mentioned it. The reason why I got into this was my own hurt and pain I was dealing with. I dealt with a lot of depression and anxiety in my life growing up, especially my teenage years. And this is the 1980s. And, of course, there's no internet back then, at least the internet that we can tap into. And the SSRI drugs didn't come out really until the mid 1990s, late 1990s, Prozac, those kind of things. So really in the 1980s, you had just talk therapy and whatever book you might be able to find at the bookstore or the library. And a teenage boy is not going to do probably any of that stuff.
Yeah, no.
And it's really just, I kind of settled into it. It's just like, well, why would you know anything could be better? It's like describing color to a blind person who's been blind since birth. How do you describe color? How do you describe joy or happiness to somebody who really doesn't experience that? And so you just kind of wear it like an uncomfortable, heavy coat. And it was really the birth of my son in the year 2001 that it's like, okay, I got to get my life together. Because some days you'll step up for somebody else when you just can't find the energy to step up for yourself. And I thought, well, my mother struggled with depression and I struggle with depression and anxiety. So there's a good chance that my son's going to as well, whether it's nature or nurture, whether he's watching what's going on in the home and at grandma's house, or it's a genetic thing and somehow that gets triggered. There's a good chance he's going to struggle with it. So what can I do to eventually, hopefully help him if that ever comes to pass? So I started working on myself. And at this point, we're we moved cities. We moved to Flagstaff, Arizona. So we're in a new city and to new careers and starting work and a new baby and all this stuff. So it's kind of an on and off trial and error thing. But by then the internet was out there. So there's a lot more information, a lot of information coming out about the SSRI drugs and what's going on with that. And so I just researched and started finding techniques and strategies and tools and practicing. And it was over the course of some time that I woke up one Saturday morning and I was just kind of lying in bed because I didn't have to, rush out and get to work or anything. And I just realized I hadn't felt that depression in a long time. It kind of the reverse frog in a boiling pot of water effect. I just kind of eased my way into a new way of being, a new way of thinking, just because I was practicing these different techniques. And one of the things that really helped me, though, was hypnotherapy. And that's because when I was reading the books and the articles and the blog posts and hearing interviews, a lot of the times they would say, okay, and here's 4 things or 5 things you can do to change your life. And it'd be 5 things to change your life. 4 of them would always be different, but there was always one constant. It seemed like in every list of life-changing techniques was hypnotherapy. It mentioned it in every article. And so it was just that tap on the shoulder. It kept getting mentioned again and again. There must be something to it. All these people I admire and I read their books and I listen to their interviews. They keep mentioning it. And I found somebody to work with and it just helped me so much, again, because I'm helping myself. I'm fixing myself. And so I got the opportunity later there's a big long story around all of it, but I got the opportunity later to be able to train at the Hypnotherapy Academy of America. It was an extraordinary school, 500 hours of just focusing on hypnotherapy and neuro-linguistic programming. Real school. You go to the school, 25, 30 other people in a classroom, and you learn about the scientific validity about these techniques. You maybe see it demonstrated, a certain techniques demonstrated in front of class, and then you practice. You go into smaller rooms and work with each other with a coach, a real professional hypnotherapist who's there coaching you, making, okay, try this, do this, that. Okay, here's a block. Here's what you can do. And then you switch and then you get hypnotherapy. So not only do you walk out of that school, it's 2.5 months, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. So this isn't like college where you're going to a history class on Tuesdays and Thursdays for an hour.
Right.
This is 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, plus homework, plus group activity work, working with each other on the weekends. And so not only do, you work with people, so you're doing probably 40, 50 sessions by the time you get out of the school as a hypnotherapist, you're also getting all that hypnotherapy too.
So it's like you're learning and you're feeling at the same time.
Yeah. Super cool. But anyway, so that's a long answer, thing to the great question you asked is like, how do you get people to this point of wanting to do the work, the mindset issue? And I really think it's just that the pain, when the pain becomes
greater than the fear of change,
the goal is so massive that like, I don't know how I'm going to reach this goal. I need some help with my confidence or, whatever the issue may be. It really just comes down to people are tired of smoking. They're tired of hurting. They're tired of being in pain. They're tired of not having the confidence to reach their goals. They're like, I got to do something. And they hear about
that's literally what happened to me too in my circumstance. I just got tired of hurting. Finally, I just surrendered. I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And when the pain becomes greater than the fear of change,
Yeah.
I need to change.
It really is because, we get comfortable. Even if we're comfortably miserable, we don't like change. There's that survival element within the subconscious mind. We know we can survive feeling like this, having this pain. We don't know what's going to happen if we let go of the pain. I mean, we can mostly guess that life is going to be more awesome, but that's not for sure within the subconscious mind, within the lizard brain, if you will. And so we know we can survive and maintain and breathe and live holding on to this pain and being uncomfortable and hurting. don't know what's going to happen if we let it go. And so there's a certain instinct to not let it go. You know, it's served us and protected us for the last 50 years. Why would I let it go?
Right.
But I think, I think you're right. You get to a point where the heaviness is or the hurt or the pain, the wounds just get to be too much. It's like, I got to let go. I did that work with a 77-year-old woman. It's the same thing. Just, she got tired of it. Originally she said, like, when I work with somebody, I send them an intake form. And, you know, some people write 8 very detailed paragraphs of what they've been going through. Other people might just write one word, anxiety. I'm just dealing with a lot of anxiety. Okay. And that's what we work with, because you know what that means. And that's what she did. She just, I'm just anxiety. And so that's what she wrote on her intake form. And we're doing our session, and mostly I do my sessions over Zoom nowadays, not unlike, something like this. Right. And we're doing the Zoom session, and just to get a little more information about it, like, is this anxiety been happening recently? It's been going on a while. I asked her when this anxiety started, when she noticed it, and she said 19. She's 77, and she said she's been dealing with this anxiety since she was 19. I did not ask what happened when she was 19, or she did not offer that information. She knows what's going on. And so we worked on that anxiety. And one of the processes I use is very, very healing, very, very different. How about that? I'll use the word different. Because one aspect of this work is having the subconscious mind turn that hurt and pain into certain symbols and metaphors. And one aspect of that is to disassociate from it, from the pain. So you know it's not you. It's an aspect, like it's a coat. And so let's say let's use this example of the anxiety. I'll ask somebody, okay, you're dealing with this anxiety. Where do you feel that in your body? I actually want you to take your hand and point to where you feel in your body, so I can see where you're holding on to it, where this feeling state originates. And so people point to their chest or their gut or the back of the neck or their head or wherever they point to. I say, okay, what color is it? Let's turn that into color. If it was a color, that hurt and pain and that anxiety was a color, what color would it be? Red, black, yellow, whatever color it is. And again, that's to disassociate from it. So now you're kind of operating different parts of your brain. Now you got to use your visual part of the brain to turn it into a color. Now, maybe the color is symbolizing something important. I don't know what the color red or black or whatever means in terms of this, and you may not either consciously. Your subconscious mind is showing you this in this way for a reason. So what color is it? Now that we know that your anxiety is red, tell me a little bit more about it. Is it rough or smooth, hard or soft, heavy or feel heavy or light? And they describe it. Again, more disassociation, 0 to 10, 0 being the most peaceful, 10 being the most anxious you ever felt. Where are you right now? I'm a 7, I'm an 8, I'm a 5. Okay. All that is pulling you out of it, because the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your 2 hands and you're going to pull it out, because now you know what you're pulling. You're pulling this red, heavy gunk out of your head or your chest or your heart or your low back or wherever. And you're pulling, and you start pulling, literally pulling. Because one of the things Richard Bandler said, who was one of the co-founders of neuro-linguistic programming back in the 70s, is that by adding body into the healing of mind and spirit, you can kind of supersize all this healing. And so again, it's that thing of the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined.
Right.
You know what you can do during a nightmare, so what can you do during your waking world? And so, yeah, I know you're not really pulling out red anxiety gunk out of your head, but your brain does, your mind does, so you're pulling this stuff out. And oftentimes, people will pull for about 10 minutes, which if you clock it, like you set your timer, you watch the clock, 10 minutes is actually a long time to just sit there, and you're encouraging people, and it's like, you're doing it perfectly, you're doing it great, as it comes up, it's come out, as you reveal it, you heal it, you're doing all this kind of stuff, pulling all this stuff out. 10 minutes, 15 minutes is a long time. Well, this woman pulled for 48 minutes. Just pulled for 48 minutes. 48 minutes. And she pulled and pulled and pulled, and finally she just stopped, opened up her eyes and said, "It's done. I'm done with it all." I mean, she pulled herself out of hypnosis, pulled herself out of that kind of altered state, trance state, opened her eyes and said, "I'm done. It's over." I'm like, "Okay, close your eyes. We'll finish up with the part 2 and clean up, because, you remove something, you want to add something. Well, what positive image comes to you to replace all that with? It's a beautiful scene of the mountains, beautiful scene of my family, beautiful, of my dog, or whatever it is. And what is that message of that image of your family, of your dog, of the mountains, of the tree? It's love and joy and happiness, and I can be me, and I am full of power and strength. That's right. That's exactly what the message is. That energy of it all, is there lightness to it. There's a healing to it. What color is that energy? It's green. That's right, it's green. I want you to take that green energy, make it bigger, and pull it into you and fill in all that empty space. And now make it bigger and spend, all this stuff we're doing. And we finished up, and we actually did a session next. That was session 1. And then
Wow.
session 2, there was some more deeper cleanup work to do. And it came back to her trauma that happened when she was like 8 years old. So we did some regression work to go back to the first time she ever felt that originating trauma, and in a safe and gentle way, cleaned that up. But it went back to when she was around 8 years old or so. She's 77. She'd been holding on to that for some 70 years or so, until one day she said, I'm done with it. I can't do this anymore. And however she got to me, oftentimes it's Google search or something, but or maybe somebody tells them about me. But when you're ready, you'll do it. And whether you're a 9-year-old struggling with nightmares, or you're 77-year-old struggling with the trauma that happened when you're 9 years old, when you're ready to heal, you'll do it.
Yeah, I'm proud of her.
Yeah.
She didn't give up. It's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. What else can you tell us about anxiety and feeling overwhelmed and fear?
Well, the biggest thing about these emotions, one way that I find helpful, at least in my life, to look at these emotions of anxiety, stress, fear, is that they're warning signals. So again, your subconscious mind, the main job of your subconscious mind is to keep you safe, protected, for survival. Does not necessarily mean for your happiness and success. It just means it wants you alive and safe and protected. Now, the subconscious mind, it's running your immune system, running your digestive system, beating your heart, growing your hair, splitting our cells, taking us from a day 1 old baby to being an adult. All this stuff is happening and we don't have to think about, which is perfect. It's wonderful. It's holding on to those habits that we have, like tying our shoes and zipping up our jacket and riding a bicycle, driving a car, walking, all these things that we don't have to think about, we just do. Holding on to all those habits. But its main job, again, is safety, is our protection, our survival. Now, when somebody's in a building and somebody pulls the fire alarm, sirens go off, the strobe lights go off, warning everybody that there's danger, you need to get to safety. Well, we also have a warning system. When our mind senses danger in our external environment, within our world, it'll send the warning signals. It'll warn us through fear, through anxiety, through worry, through overwhelm, through anger. And it's not that it's against us, it's just the warning signal. The problem is, if we don't heed the warning or do something about the warning, it's just going to get louder. So like if the fire marshal, is doing the fire alarm test and nobody's hearing the fire alarm and nobody's getting out of the building for the fire alarm test, he's going to turn up the volume. He's going to make the strobe lights brighter. Well, the same with our body. If we're not heeding the warnings that there's danger, then it's going to turn up the volume. And that leads into another aspect of being a human. What you practice, you get better at. And we know this from, learning a musical instrument, playing piano or guitar. Learning to walk as a child, learning to ride a bike, martial arts, dance. What you practice, you get better at. Well, what if you're practicing anxiety? What if you're practicing anger? What if you're practicing fear? You're just going to get better and better at it. And the other aspect of being a human, the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So is that danger that you're sensing in your external world a real danger or only imagined danger? And we never want to get rid of fear or anxiety or stress. That's what keeps us from walking down that dark alley at midnight, even though it's a shortcut home. No, keep to the lightest streets, keep to lightest streets where all the people are, even though it's going to take you 15 minutes longer to walk home. That fear keeps you here. Well, I live up in the mountains in Flagstaff, but down in the desert, down in Phoenix and Tucson, you're walking out in nature, out in the desert. There could be a rattlesnake on the trail. The rattlesnake is not your friend. Don't go up to the rattlesnake and pet the rattlesnake. That fear is going to keep you, oh my God, there's a rattlesnake. Move away from the rattlesnake. That's what keeps us alive. And, it's the whole thing of, when we were hunters and gatherers and the rustling in the bush, is that the wind, or is there a predator, or is there food there that I can hunt? And so we want that fear and anxiety. It's just when it gets to that peak point of, okay, now this is not resourceful anymore. That stress will get the reports done by the deadline. That stress gets us to work on time,
Right.
So the certain amount of pressure, or what's called arousal, is good. It helps us in our performance. It's just when it gets to be too much, then we get into anxiety and procrastination and dread, and then we start to fall apart. We get into overwhelm and worry. But in terms of fear and anxiety, yeah, I think we want that. And to a certain extent, the trauma we've experienced in our lives, one thing I don't do in hypnotherapy is create amnesia. That's not a thing that I think is safe or healthy to do. You want to keep the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding and the learning from the events of your life. You just want to let go of the pain and the hurt. You want to remember a hot pot on a stove will burn your hand. Just let go of the pain, And so you want to remember that, there are dangerous people in the world, but you don't have to hold on to that fear and that anxiety, or you can turn that off,
Right.
But when the hairs start, creeping up on your arms or the back of your neck, and you're getting that signal that maybe somebody is not the safest person in the world, you want that. That's how you keep yourself safe. But you don't want to, I don't think you feel you need to hold on to the hurt and the pain and the wounding if you've had a traumatic episode in your life. That's detrimental to your growth and your moving forward. And so I think this is where, again, and like so many wonderful therapies out there, EDMR and certainly talk therapy. I don't want to disparage talk therapy. I think that's super important to do. But other modalities in hypnotherapy or and aspects of neurolinguistic programming can help you change the computer code within that subconscious part of mind. Because again, that subconscious part of mind is really just, the software running your hard drive of your body, beating your heart, breathing your lungs, digesting your food, splitting your cells, and all happening automatically, remembering how to ride a bicycle, remembering how to play the guitar, all that stuff. And that's the subconscious mind, but it's this emotionalized part of mind that's trying to keep you safe and protected. That's subconscious. Conscious mind, that's the logical mind, the analytical mind, the mind that sets up your goals and your plans to achieve those goals, and the willpower to get up early and go to the gym before work. Well, what neuroscience says is something like 5% of mind is consciousness, is conscious mind, that logical, analytical mind. 95% of mind is the unconscious. So when there's conflict between the logical mind and the emotional mind wins every time.
Yeah.
It's no conflict. And that's why, again, not to put talk therapy on blast, but it's just like why I think sometimes people find themselves spinning their wheels in talk therapy is that you're using the logical mind to try to explain an emotional mind issue. And it's just, it's round peg in a square hole. It's just, it doesn't work. It doesn't fit well. Can be helpful, can be useful in terms of dealing with the conscious level of issues. But if a lot of that root issue is held behind the curtain of the unconscious mind, you know, how will you ever, with your conscious level 5% mind, find the answers? And this is that thing of, let's say somebody wants to get into shape. You know, they have a New Year's resolution of losing that 25 pounds and building up some muscle and getting into shape. And they get a personal trainer and they start working out at the gym, or they're taking a dance class or a martial arts class or something. They're doing what they're doing and they're getting in shape, and they're oatmeal for breakfast, salad for lunch, salmon for dinner. And then at 10 o'clock at night, they're eating a pint of Ben and Jerry's. Well, that logically makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
But maybe they had a really crappy day. And when they got bullied when they were 7 years old at school, they'd come home and mom would give them ice cream, make them feel better. And now they've linked feeling better and being nurtured by mom to eating ice cream. And at the end of the night, you got decision fatigue, you're tired, and you had a bad day, and you just want to feel better. Well, now your subconscious mind is going to take over. We need to feel better now in this moment. Getting in shape is tomorrow's problem. That's next week's problem. We need to feel better now. And a great way to feel better is to eat ice cream, because that will remind us of nurturing love from mom, unconditional love from mom. And that will make us feel better right now. And that's what's important. It's not logical. We can analyze that for hours and hours and find all the flaws in that thinking, but that's not what's important. It's emotional.
And I feel like that would actually cause a bad habit too. If your parents are rewarding you with desserts and treats after something bad has happened, later on as an adult, where are you going to turn to if things, turn out bad? You're going to turn to
it's
food, and then more.
It's a crazy world. Yeah, it's this life of humanness is full of potholes.
Yeah,
it's like when I was telling my son this. We went to go visit my mom, his grandmother. So we did a little family trip. My wife and I and my son went to go visit the grandparents, or my grandmother, or my mom, his grandmother. And I was telling him she has a lot of kind of junky food around, and in large quantities that really don't make any sense, because she's on her own now. And but I tell him, and my brother, my brother lives they live in San Diego, and my brother lives there, and he has his kids. So she was surrounded by two grandkids and him, and but when you look at her freezer, or you look at the shelving unit in her garage with all the drinks, and it's like, this seems a lot for an 86-year-old woman. But I was telling my son that when we were growing up, we had a friend group, and everybody kind of had a broken home, an unsafe home.
I get that.
And so they would come to our house because my mom would welcome everybody. It was an open door. This is the 1980s, 85, 84. And Costco had just opened a few years before in San Diego. That was a new thing, Costco. And so she'd go and buy, 30 of everything. And it was an open pantry, open refrigerator. She would not make it for you. She drew the line at being your maid and being your, that. But it's like, you come over, it's an open door. There was People magazine, there was Us magazine. We had HBO. And after school, they would come over to our house, and my brother and I could never go anywhere because nobody wanted to go back to their house, because it didn't feel safe. And nobody was welcomed there. My mom welcomed everybody. And so, but it's also, it's People magazine, HBO, and junk food. And it made them feel safe, So it's that weird line of okay, maybe she was providing a healthy, safe place, but maybe the candy and the cookies and the soda, were
I'm not gonna lie.
what we're doing now. It's
not mom.
I don't know. Yeah.
I used to be the team mom for my son's football team, and along with my daughter was in dance, and so I had kids on both sides, so many kids, and they knew that they could come to my house. The pantry was always open. The sleeping bags are there for you guys if you need to crash for the night. I was that house.
Yeah.
But I didn't want you
And it's a
guys
great
to.
thing to do for another human being that doesn't
Yeah.
feel safe. But it's also
Yeah.
your equation is like, well, yeah, but now we're equating ice cream with safety,
Yeah,
you know? And so
exactly.
it's like that
Yeah.
weird, you do the best with
Yeah,
what you know how to do.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it was fun while it lasted anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, Craig, tell everybody where they can find you.
Sure, sure. Well, I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. I named my business Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy because up to about 5 years ago, I was just working with people in Flagstaff and Phoenix. And then with the whole issues of 2020, everything went to Zoom.
Yeah.
And I now work with people around the country, around the world. I literally not just to show you how small the world is nowadays. A couple weeks ago, I worked with a professional basketball player in Iceland, and he had gotten my name from somebody I worked with who lives in Puerto Rico. And so the world is
Nice.
becoming smaller because of this
Yeah.
access we have to each other. And it works really well over Zoom. In fact, a lot of the research has shown that not only do Zoom sessions, whether it's talk therapy, hypnotherapy, a doctor's appointment, that Zoom sessions work as well as in person. And a handful of studies even showed that Zoom sessions work better than in person because people feel relaxed and comfortable in their homes. They feel safe in
In
their
their
homes
own
during the time
space.
of it.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and if you live in a big city, you don't have to drive, across town in rush hour traffic on a Friday afternoon. So I mostly,
Exactly.
probably 85% of my sessions are over Zoom now. But in terms of finding me, Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, I know that's a mouthful, but if you just go to Google and Google Flagstaff Hypnosis, you'll see me pop up. And I also have a test anxiety course. This is a little easier to remember. And this is an online video course for test anxiety, or if you're an actor or musician doing auditions or any, tests, not even just, I'm not talking about even just um, high school students. There's
Scholastic. Yeah.
university,
Yeah.
you're taking a bar exam after you've gotten out of law school, electricians, plumbers, firefighters, real estate agents. A lot of professionals have to take tests as well as public speaking. So it's called ACE Any Test. And that's a little easier to remember. ACE Any Test, and you can email me from either place.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being
Yeah,
here.
Tasha, it
It's
was
such
a
a
really fun
pleasure.
conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was awesome. Okay, you guys, well, that's all we have for you today. Remember, your journey to healing starts with understanding. Stay strong and stay informed. Every step towards awareness is a step towards freedom. Until next time, keep riding the waves of transformation with us. I'm your host, Tasha. Have the most wonderful day. Thanks again, Craig. Have a good one.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Tasha.
You're welcome. You can find Craig at ArizonaIntegrativeHypnotherapy.com, on YouTube at Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, on Facebook at Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, on Instagram at AZ_integrative_hypnotherapy, and on LinkedIn at Craig-Meriwether. You can also visit anytest.com, which is an online course for test anxiety relief. For more information on where you can find me, please visit deepwavescoaching.com and on my Facebook and Instagram at Deep Waves Life Coaching.